Is that supposed to be military gear? Looks more like something a scarecrow rejected. The snickers rippled through the store when the elderly farmer shuffled in, his work-worn boots leaving earth trails, jacket tattered, and emblems barely visible beneath years of fading. Not a single employee stepped forward to assist him. One cashier muttered to another, "Bet he found that getup at some roadside thrift shop." Yet 72 hours later, when the town official requested a veteran's name for the upcoming patriotic ceremony, the Department of Defense responded with a single dossier, one requiring presidential clearance and secured under the highest national protocols. If you believe true heroes often walk unrecognized among us, their valor etched in actions rather than appearances, honor this silent warrior in the comments below. The daybreak mist embraced the countryside as Robert Ray McKenzie completed his morning tasks. At 81, his body moved with deliberate patience, yet retained the precision forged through years of discipline. For decades, he'd risen before dawn to tend his small homestead outside Willow Creek. This morning, the boundary fence along his property's eastern edge demanded attention. Yesterday's windstorm had sent a massive limb crashing through several posts. Ray's experience taught him that immediate repairs prevented costlier problems later. He slipped into his weathered service jacket, once pristine military issue now transformed by time into what appeared to be ordinary farmer's attire, save for the nearly invisible unit insignia still faintly discernible on its shoulder. The journey into town required 15 minutes. Ray parked at Johnson's Agricultural Supply, the establishment his own father had frequented half a century before. Springtime brought unfamiliar faces to Willow Creek, construction teams and temporary laborers arriving for the seasonal building surge. A cluster of them gathered near the entrance, coffee cups in hand, evaluating everyone who passed. Ray walked by them, earth caking his boots, his worn cap drawn down. One younger man elbowed his companion. "Check out Grandpa playing soldier or stuck in some time warp." Ray heard their remarks but continued forward. After decades of service followed by years of solitary farming, the opinions of strangers had become like distant frequencies, occasionally detectable, but rarely worth acknowledging. Inside, he navigated toward the fencing materials. His hands, powerful despite their age and joint pain, selected wire cutters, metal fasteners, and a replacement digger for post holes. At checkout, a new employee, college-age with a badge reading Brandon, wrinkled his face as Ray approached. The morning soil had dried on Ray's boots, crumbling onto the freshly swept flooring. "Sir, are you sure you're in the correct store? The military surplus outlet is down the highway." His voice carried the unmistakable condescension of youth addressing elderhood. "Just these items," Ray answered, placing his selections on the counter and reaching for his wallet. "Interesting jacket," Brandon persisted, unwilling to drop the subject. "My grandfather owned one from his tour in Southeast Asia." Ray remained silent, simply counting out exact payment as he collected his purchases and turned away. One construction worker, now waiting in line behind him, commented loudly enough to be heard, "Probably another fake vet looking for handouts." Ray exited unhurriedly, not embarrassed, merely weary. Some confrontations weren't worth engaging, and he'd faced enough genuine battles to recognize the difference. That same week, Mayor Catherine Reynolds initiated Willow Creek's annual Memorial Day preparations with a community-wide message. "This year, we're recognizing one veteran from each era at our Memorial Day observance, from World War II through current conflicts. Please submit nominations to my office before Friday." The announcement circulated throughout town. At Johnson's Agricultural Supply, staff gathered for their morning briefing when the email arrived. "Does anyone have family members we should consider nominating?" asked Jennifer, the store manager. Several possibilities emerged. A grandfather who'd served in the Pacific Theater, an uncle who'd participated in Middle Eastern operations. Brandon, scrolling through the message on his device, grinned maliciously. "Hey, what about that old-timer with the beat-up army coat? The farmer? I bet he'd love to dress up and share war stories." "Ray McKenzie?" Jennifer asked, frowning. "Yeah, that guy. He comes in covered in field dirt, wearing that raggedy jacket like it's some kind of treasure." Brandon laughed. We should put his name forward. Give him his 15 minutes. That's inappropriate, Brandon, Jennifer began. But the young man had already hit the reply button on his phone. Later that day, he drafted a brief submission. Robert McKenzie, local farmer, always wears an old Army jacket, nominating him for the senior veteran category. He added a note. This guy still thinks he's a war hero. He displayed the message to a co-worker, both chuckling at what they viewed as a harmless prank. At the municipal building, Sharon Winters, the mayor's executive assistant for nearly 3 decades, organized the incoming nominations. Most contained familiar names, the town's well-known veterans. But when she encountered Ray McKenzie's name, she paused. Ray McKenzie, she whispered. The name triggered a faint recollection from her early days working for the previous administration. Sharon searched the town's veteran database and found nothing. She checked county archives. Still nothing. Following standard procedure for unconfirmed nominations, she forwarded the name to her military affairs contact. A routine verification they performed for all potential honorees. 2 days later, a government messenger in formal attire arrived at the municipal building carrying a sealed package marked official correspondence, addressee only. The return address simply stated, Department of Defense, Special Veterans Affairs Division. Mayor Reynolds was attending a budget conference, so Sharon signed for the delivery. The courier delivered a verbal instruction. Inform the mayor she must call the number enclosed immediately regarding the McKenzie nomination. When the mayor returned and unsealed the envelope, her expression transformed from interest to astonishment. She immediately summoned Sharon into her private office and closed the door. Were you aware of this? She asked, holding a single document with numerous blacked-out sections. Aware of what, Mayor? The mayor read aloud. Robert McKenzie, Operation Midnight Dagger, Operation Silent Arrow. Distinguished Service Cross, pending declassification. Current records restricted under presidential directive. Pentagon secure archives access only. Sharon's eyes widened. Wait, this is Ray McKenzie, who resides off rural Route 9? The farmer? The mayor nodded, then lifted her phone to dial the provided number. The brief conversation was predominantly one-sided. When she disconnected, she regarded Sharon with newfound reverence. A Department of Defense representative will be attending our ceremony, she said softly. Apparently, recognizing Ray McKenzie requires specialized protocols. Why? What did he do? Sharon inquired. The mayor shook her head. They wouldn't disclose details, but the official I spoke with told me something I'll never forget. That's not merely a farmer. That's the phantom every special operations instructor studies. The nomination that began as mockery had exposed something neither Brandon nor anyone else in Willow Creek could have imagined. The quiet farmer in the worn jacket harbored secrets classified at the highest governmental levels. As whispers began circulating through municipal offices that something extraordinary was developing with the Memorial Day arrangements, the gravity of unacknowledged service and the casual disrespect shown to a man whose record was too sensitive to even mention settled uncomfortably on those who had witnessed Ray's treatment. Not every hero's file is available for public scrutiny. Not every warrior's name echoes through history until the nation recalls who stood guard over its freedom. Leave a comment. Salute him if you believe certain legends grow in silence, nurturing communities while they await recognition. Memorial Day in Willow Creek traditionally followed a predictable sequence. A modest assembly in the Central Plaza, the local school band performing patriotic selections, and brief addresses from the mayor and several recognized veterans. This year diverged dramatically. Rumors had circulated that something unprecedented was unfolding. The mayor's office maintained unusual discretion about ceremonial details, and speculation abounded regarding distinguished visitors from the capital. At 9:45 a.m., 15 minutes before the scheduled commencement, 4 Obsidian government SUVs with federal license plates entered Main Street. They parked adjacent to the municipal building, and individuals in dark formal attire with communication devices emerged, surveying the gathering crowd with professional vigilance. Townspeople watched as the security personnel established positions surrounding the small platform erected in the town center. At precisely 10 a.m., Mayor Reynolds approached the microphone. Her customary relaxed manner had been replaced by formal gravitas. Good morning, Willow Creek residents. Today we assemble to honor those who defended our nation in uniform. Our Memorial Day observance typically commemorates those we've lost, but today we also acknowledge the living who shouldered burdens we can never fully comprehend. She paused, her gaze finding someone among the attendees. Before proceeding, I'd like to welcome a distinguished visitor from the Pentagon, Lieutenant General James Blackwood, Deputy Commander of Special Operations Forces. An imposing figure in ceremonial military dress, chest adorned with ribbons and commendations, ascended the platform. His presence commanded immediate respect without effort. Thank you, Mayor Reynolds, the general began. I appear today representing the Secretary of Defense and, by extension, the Commander-in-Chief. A hushed conversation rippled through the gathering. Such an occurrence was unprecedented in Willow Creek's history. Before commencing today's ceremony, we wish to recognize a man who requested anonymity throughout his career, but whose operations overseas safeguarded more lives than we'll ever be able to quantify. Two security personnel approached a figure standing at the crowd's periphery. Ray McKenzie, freshly groomed, his worn jacket pressed as effectively as age material would permit. They escorted him toward the platform with a deference that astonished onlookers. Brandon, the clerk from Johnson's Agricultural Supply, stood immobilized in the back row, recognition and shame dawning across his features as he watched the man he had ridiculed being treated with such extraordinary reverence. As Ray climbed the steps to the platform, every military veteran in attendance instinctively straightened their posture and rendered salutes, though none comprehended exactly why. Mr. McKenzie has declined to address us today, the general continued. His modesty equals his service record. I can share that his missions remain classified. His decorations are secured in facilities few have authorization to access. But today we honor him not with publicity, but with presence. Mayor Reynolds appeared visibly moved as she observed Ray, the unassuming farmer most residents barely acknowledge, standing alongside one of the military's highest-ranking commanders. While I cannot elaborate on the specifics of Mr. McKenzie's contributions, General Blackwood continued, I am permitted to confirm that operations he conducted during the Cold War era preserved countless American lives and fundamentally strengthened our nation's security position. There are fewer memorial stars on certain walls because of this man's valor. The assembly had fallen completely silent. The general turned to address Ray directly. Mr. McKenzie, representing a grateful nation that has never properly acknowledged you due to the nature of your service, I present this presidential commendation. He handed Ray a framed certificate bearing the presidential seal. The elderly farmer accepted it with a simple nod. No emotional display, no tears, merely the quiet acknowledgement of someone accustomed to performing extraordinary deeds without recognition. In the back row, Brandon sat with his head lowered, the weight of his thoughtless cruelty toward a genuine hero crushing his former arrogance. The construction workers who had mocked Ray's appearance shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet each other's gaze. Jennifer from the Agricultural Supply wiped tears from her eyes. She had always treated Ray respectfully, but had never suspected the magnitude of the man who purchased fencing materials and livestock feed with exact change and minimal conversation. As the ceremony proceeded, the residents of Willow Creek collectively confronted how easily they had dismissed a giant who had walked silently among them for decades. A man whose mud-caked boots had once stood on terrain so classified that even acknowledging his presence there remained a matter of national security. Ray declined to deliver remarks that day. He simply nodded his appreciation for the recognition, shook the general's hand with the firm grip of someone who still repaired fencing at 81, and returned to his seat. But something fundamental transformed in Willow Creek following that Memorial Day ceremony. The town council voted unanimously to install a special memorial plaque in the central plaza. Unlike typical military tributes with extensive descriptions of service and sacrifice, this one, at Ray's insistence, simply read, "To the one who walked quietly while others spoke loudly." The memorial became a point of contemplation for residents and visitors alike. Its intentional ambiguity prompted questions that led to the narrative of the farmer, whose service remained too classified to celebrate publicly, but too significant to disregard. The following spring, the Memorial Day parade route was officially redirected. Rather than beginning at the municipal building, as tradition had dictated for generations, it now commenced at the entrance to Ray's farm off rural Route 9. The modest gesture acknowledged what everyone now understood. Authentic service wasn't always accompanied by ribbons and public recognition. Brandon, the young employee who had ridiculed Ray's appearance, found himself profoundly changed by the experience. He visited the elderly farmer one afternoon, driving to the property with the burden of remorse weighing heavily upon him. Ray was repairing a fence, the same eastern boundary that had required attention the day of their unfortunate encounter at the store. "Mr. Mackenzie," Brandon began, his carefully rehearsed apology suddenly inadequate in the presence of the man himself. "I came to express my regret for how I treated you, for what I said." Ray studied him momentarily, then handed him a post-hole digger. "Would rather have your working hands than your apologetic words, young man." They labored side by side for 2 hours. Brandon's inexperienced hands developing blisters, Ray's weathered ones demonstrating the efficiency of experience. No further apology was offered or required. Ray's mud-caked boots, the ones that had tracked soil into Johnson's agricultural supply, were ceremonially displayed in a glass enclosure at the Willow Creek Historical Museum. The exhibit description, authored by the mayor herself, stated simply, "These boots protected territory you'll never walk upon." His military jacket remained precisely what it had always been, a practical garment for a working farmer. Ray wore it every Thursday when he visited town for supplies. Its worn fabric and faded insignia now recognized for what they truly represented, the quiet dignity of extraordinary service. Residents no longer questioned its authenticity. They nodded respectfully. They said, "Thank you for your service." Some rendered salutes, and once annually, a Department of Defense vehicle still visited the farm to check on the man, with no medals visibly displayed because the genuine commendations weren't intended for public exhibition. They were meant to be preserved in national memory. Follow Ironheart Chronicles if you believe some uniforms become soiled not from pretense, but from protecting the very soil they continue to tend with humble hands.